They say grief doesn't knock. It storms in, breaks the windows, and leaves you standing in the wreckage. That's exactly what happened the night Layla collapsed in the kitchen. One moment she was alive, humming softly while preparing dinner, teasing Inaya about her messy handwriting. The next moment she was gone. No slow fade, no build-up, just gone. I remember her dropping like a stone, the sound echoing in my ears like a car crash in a silent tunnel. I screamed her name, louder than I've ever yelled anything in my life. Inaya, only 8 years old, stood frozen in the hallway, her wide eyes full of terror as she pressed against the wall. I dropped to my knees beside Layla, frantically checking for a pulse, yelling, begging, praying. I called 1122 with shaking hands. I pleaded with God, with fate, with her. But by the time the ambulance arrived, there was no saving her. The doctors called it sudden cardiac arrest. No symptoms, no warning, just a clean break from this world to the next. Hours later, I was identifying her body under cold fluorescent lights. The smell of antiseptic clung to everything, my skin, my clothes, my memory. That night, I didn't sleep. Inaya curled up beside me in bed, clutching her mother's favorite scarf like it was a magic charm. She didn't cry. Neither did I. We were both stunned, like someone had paused our lives but forgotten to tell us. Around 2 a.m., I picked up my phone and called my parents. My voice cracked as I told them what happened. My mother gasped. My father's voice trembled. Oh no. I said I needed them. Told them the funeral would be in 2 days. I begged them to come. There was a long pause. My father cleared his throat and said, "You know your sister's birthday is this weekend? Adam, her 30th. Your mother's been planning it for months. All the decorations, the cake, the venue." My mouth went dry. "Dad," I said, "Layla just died." He sighed. "I know, son. It's terrible. But what are we supposed to do now? Cancel everything?" That moment snapped something in me. I wasn't a grieving husband in their eyes. I wasn't a broken father. I was just a disruption in their carefully curated plans. The day of the funeral, I looked around at the cemetery. Layla's relatives, friends, colleagues, they came. They wept. But my family? Not a single one showed up. Not my parents. Not Alina. Not even a text. As I lowered Layla into the earth with Inaya gripping my hand, she asked, "Where's Nani and Dada?" I lied. "They'll come later." That night, while avoiding sleep, I opened Instagram. Bright balloons, laughter, my sister in a tiara with 30 and thriving above her head. My parents standing behind her, smiles wide and untouched by grief. The contrast nearly broke me. The next morning, my sister messaged, "Hey, hope things went okay. Let us know when you're up for visitors. We can bring leftover cake on cake." That's what they thought. I didn't reply. The weeks that followed blurred together. Inaya started wetting the bed again. She'd wake up crying for her mother, clutching her scarf to her face like it could bring her back. She refused to eat some days. Other days, she'd talk to Layla's photo for hours, telling her about school or the clouds or the new toy she wanted. I tried to keep us afloat. I learned to braid her hair. I burned a dozen dinners before finally learning how to make pasta right. I didn't have time to break down, and she needed me. I often cried in the shower or late at night when Inaya was asleep. Grief had settled into our home like an unwanted roommate. The walls felt heavier. The silence rang louder. My family? They stayed silent, too. The occasional dry text, always worded like a distant neighbor. "Hope you're doing okay. Thinking of you." But they never came. Never asked how Inaya was. Never mentioned Layla. 2 months later, I got a call from our lawyer. Apparently, Layla had updated her will and left behind a life. Insurance policy I'd forgotten about. I went to the office thinking maybe there was a little to help us breathe. Instead, I was handed an envelope. Inside was her handwriting, soft and familiar. "Adam, if you're reading this, I'm sorry. I wish I could be there. I know you'll raise Inaya with the same strength and love you've always had. I've made sure you won't have to struggle. Use this to start fresh. Don't look back. And remember, not all family is blood. Lila." I sat there, stunned. 1.2 million, a property in both our names. She had left us secure. She had planned for us, even in death. That night I held Inaya tighter than I ever had before. And somehow, I still don't know how, word got out. The very next day, my phone rang. My parents. My father's voice was softer than honey. Beta, he said warmly. We were thinking of coming by. It's been too long. Maybe have a meal together? I knew exactly why they were calling. But I said yes. Part of me wanted to hear them out. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I wanted them to see what they'd missed. They came the next evening, bearing warm food and fake smiles. My mother teared up dramatically when she saw Inaya and pulled her into a hug. "We missed you so much, John," she whispered. Alina came too. Quiet for once. We sat at the dining table, awkward conversation bouncing between spoonfuls of rice. I almost let myself believe they had changed. Then my mother leaned forward. Her voice was soft, but her words landed like knives. "Adam, we wanted to talk. Now that Layla is gone, and you've inherited quite a bit, we were wondering if maybe it would be fair to split it. 50-50, you know, family supports family." I felt Inaya's hand tighten around mine. My father added, "Your sister has student loans. We need house repairs. You're not alone anymore. You have us." My heart went cold. They didn't come to grieve. They came to claim, to divide, to feed off what Layla left behind. My own family, who hadn't shed a tear when we were shattered, now sat at my table asking for a share of the ashes. I couldn't speak. Rage churned in my chest, but I stayed silent. I was about to open my mouth when Inaya quietly stood up. She walked to her room and returned with a small torn page from her notebook. Her face was calm. She handed it to my parents. They unfolded it. Big uneven letters. Pink crayon. It read, "Invoice. Missed Mama's funeral, $1,000. Ignored Papa's phone calls, $500,000. Came only when you heard about the money, $10. Love you never gave. Priceless. Total you get, $0. The room went still. My mother's face flushed deep red. My father looked like he'd forgotten how to blink. Alina opened her mouth, then closed it again. I watched them not with anger, but with finality. This was the truth. Inaya had said everything I couldn't. She was only 8, but she had more clarity than the adults around her. My daughter, Layla's daughter, had drawn a line in the sand. I stood up, walked over, and kissed the top of her head. "Thank you," I whispered. That night, I didn't dream of Layla collapsing. I dreamt of her smiling and proud. We didn't need their love, their pity, or their apologies. We had something stronger. We had each other. And from now on, we wouldn't look back.